Good morning, everyone, and thank you for attending today's webcast, Improving Engineering and Operational Excellence using BlueCielo Meridian. Our presenter today is Matt Lane. He's the Director of Consulting Services for Hagerman & Company. Before we get started, I want to let you know that you're in listening only mode. If you have questions during the presentation, just type them into the question panel on the right-hand side of your screen, and Matt will address them at the end of the presentation. As you exit the webcast today, you'll be prompted to fill out a survey, and we ask that you take a few moments to fill that out. Additionally, all attendees will receive a certificate for attending today's presentation. And with that, I'll hand things over to Matt.
All right, thank you very much, Ashley. And is everyone already seeing my screen, Ashley?
Yes, I can see it.
Okay, all right, I thought so. Just wanted to make sure of that. Appreciate everyone joining us here this morning or this afternoon, depending upon your time zone. Probably looking about, for scheduling purposes, probably, I'm guessing, maybe a 40-minute presentation here. And during the session, it's going to be a mix of PowerPoint presentation and demonstration. And then at the end, we'll have a question and answer session. And we'll use the question panel in GoToWebinar for collecting the questions. You can go ahead and type them in at any point you think of them, and then we'll be answering them all at the end. And as you can see, the title of our webinar this morning is Improving Engineering and Operational Excellence with BlueCielo Meridian. And so kind of looking at two halves. The engineering side kind of typically relates to the drawing management and engineering workflow. Then the operational side focuses on integrating with other in-house systems that your company might have. Now, some of you may not have the other systems to integrate with that we'll be talking about in the presentation. And if so, just the engineering CAD side of things may be more interesting to you from the BlueCielo side. And so, I mean, BlueCielo could still be a fit if that's all you're looking at doing. So just a quick view of the agenda. You see here, Hagerman & Company and requirements overview, market dynamics. Then we'll go into the engineering data management side of things, and that's going to be the bulk of the presentation. And then we'll also look at the operational side for a shorter amount of time, which relates to asset lifecycle information management. And then we'll wrap up with some information about implementation and then our Q&A. Just a little background on Hagerman & Company for those of you who aren't familiar with us. We've been around since 1984. So for 31 years, I've actually been with the company the whole time. And we've always been headquartered here in Mount Zion, Illinois, which is in central Illinois. And then you can see we have offices spread out. So we're pretty much covering the entire United States at this point. We've been doing CAD or engineering systems for over 30 years. And we've been doing the data management or document control systems for over 20 years with over 400 customer implementations. I've actually really been with the company to oversee 100% of those, and then was also looking at this morning that probably due to our low turnover, probably 90% of those implementations were done by people who are still on staff at Hagerman & Company. So we've got company experience plus the people experience as well to make this type of thing work for you. Now, the BlueCielo software that we're talking about today is focused largely on the 5 industries that you see here. So a lot of, very much infrastructure-based industries, chemical, metals and mining, which is largely like steel production, the big steel companies, oil and gas, pharmaceutical, and utilities. Now, BlueCielo works in other markets as well, including people who are more just into product design. But within the 5 key verticals where BlueCielo is the most dominant, you can see 4 of the 10 largest chemical companies in the world use BlueCielo, 4 out of 5 on metals and mining, 5 out of 10 on oil and gas, 9 out of 10 on pharmaceutical, and 4 out of the 10 largest utility companies in the world are using BlueCielo, although probably the utility industry is probably more fragmented and more companies than the other markets. And within these types of industries, we really see 5 keys to achieving engineering and operational excellence from a data management standpoint. Just general document management. Some of you may already be familiar with document management systems. So just general document management and workflow. Moving more specifically, your companies and these companies are also probably using CAD software, and there's some particulars that come in when you're integrating with CAD software as opposed to managing Microsoft Office documents, for example. Then companies in these more infrastructure, asset-intensive, do large engineering projects relating to their plants and infrastructure. In the context of doing those projects, need the ability to separate the current as-built documents from these project copies. So your maintenance and operations people can go on accessing the as-built for doing maintenance and those kinds of things, while the company internal and external engineering firms are working on and accessing the project copies. To complicate matters further, you may have overlapping engineering projects. So may have 2 overlapping, 1 large, 1 small project relating to the same area of the plant, and need the ability to manage that. Of course, you're relating back to the maintenance and operations people. They need a super easy 24/7 available search view print interface so they can get the documents they need to do the maintenance they need to do, the repairs they need to do. Then most companies in these industries do a lot of their engineering work with outside engineering firms, and also need to collaborate with contractors and construction firms. So collaboration with outside parties in the areas of doing document transmittals, maybe integrated cloud-based collaboration for sharing files, and then easily importing sets of documents that come in from outside engineering firms. And then finally, the ability to link related documents to assets. So there might be a pump out in the plant. It's due for repair or maintenance. Somebody can type in the equipment number on that pump and get all the related documents. So that pump can have multiple documents related to it, and one document could be related to multiple pumps. So managing and linking and tracking all that. So for these large asset or infrastructure-based companies, really a data or document management system kind of has all these requirements associated with it, as opposed to maybe somebody in product design just need good CAD integration. And that's really where BlueCielo comes in and is targeted. And of course, market dynamics, every industry probably is in constant pressure in terms of profitability. Specifically in these areas, extending the asset lifetime of the equipment, keep it going, reuse and reconfigure assets, faster response time, get the engineering projects done quicker, get the maintenance repairs done quicker to get the plant up and going. Of course, more and more volatility. The world's a faster changing place all the time, so you need to handle changes much faster and much easier than you probably did in the past. And then manage risk in product design area. Product liability issues can be so costly now that you can't afford to have people accessing the wrong or outdated documents from a design or a manufacturing standpoint. In a chemical plant, you can't afford to have someone accessing an outdated or incorrect document relating to a piece of equipment and then have some type of accident. Then you've got downtime. In all areas, you got to worry about liabilities, brand reputation, those kinds of things. Another challenge we're seeing is that organizations are becoming more and more widely dispersed. At the same time, there's a desire for everyone to be more and more integrated. So whether it's product manufacturing or process-based industry, we're seeing people with plants and operations maybe all over the country or all over the world now wanting to share data, central engineering offices doing plant work at multiple plants, people wanting more standardization. So BlueCielo offers the way for data to be synchronized and replicated across all locations. So basically, everyone has growing organizational needs. Another way to look at, this goes back to an earlier slide I looked at, but you can see that from an organizational needs standpoint, some companies may just need a central file server for managing their files. Honestly, those days are probably gone. Some companies may just need a drawing management system for managing check-in, check-out, revision histories, if you're using something like Autodesk Inventor, managing the relationships between parts, subassemblies, assemblies, and drawings. And here at Hagerman & Company, we offer other systems that do that as well. As you get into plant and process engineering, that's when the needs get more complex, where BlueCielo terms it engineering data management, with some of the main bullet points, support the life cycle of engineering data, kind of as it relates to plant asset equipment, management of engineering change projects like we talked about earlier, separating the engineering or the project copies from the as-built and have overlapping projects possibly, management of master data, well, these would be your as-built that relate specifically to current pieces of equipment, and then provide visibility and access to your operations and maintenance people to your engineering data. And then under asset lifecycle information management, that really relates to managing all those relationships between your pieces of equipment and all the drawings and documents that relate to them. And then ensure seamless handover so that when the plant and equipment modifications are made, exactly at that time, the new updated drawings and documents are available. So you've got full compliance, auditability, standardization, and so on. So really see 6 steps to determine your level of organizational need. You know, the first really just relates to basic drawing or document management. Are your documents and data just scattered? Do you need to get them organized? And do you have problems managing CAD files? Levels 3 and 4 really relate to engineering project management. Does your plant have a high degree of engineering complexity? Do you do a lot of plant modifications and projects on a yearly basis? So that would fall into the engineering data management area. And then levels 5 and 6 really get into the asset lifecycle information management, tying your engineering data and drawings to your plant assets. Kind of looking at this graphically from a flow standpoint, so you've got your master data or your as-built data, and this shows that possibly the same or overlapping sets of drawings or documents could get assigned to multiple different engineering projects under work in progress. That data would need to be exchanged with outside engineering firms or contractors. We're not really hitting on this in this webinar. BlueCielo offers their project portal software, which is a cloud-based engineering project collaboration tool that gives full seamless integration with BlueCielo Meridian and offers secure access, audit trails, email notifications for outside parties to work with your engineering data on projects. And then once a project is done, you want it to go into a project archive, so you can always go back to a certain project and see what was the status of these drawings, these designs at the end of that project in 2012. Here in just a second, we're going to look at a demonstration simulating a typical workflow within engineering data management. In this case, what we're going to see is the maintenance people search for a document. They find an area where some modification is needed, and they'll add some remarks or red lines to the drawing, at which point engineering will get the request, and they're able to review the comments and markup from maintenance. We'll then create a project copy and start a change. So engineering is not editing the as-built or the master drawing directly. They're creating a separate protected project copy to handle the change cycle, where the drafter will make updates to the drawing, send it to the engineering manager for review. The engineering manager will approve it, at which point the master or the as-built is updated, changes are logged, and then maintenance is then able to find that new as-built. So the big key thing you're going to see here that's vital for a plant like you're seeing here in the background photo is to get that project copy separated from the as-built for the duration of whatever that change process or that engineering process is. So at this point, we're going to go to a demonstration from Chris Angridis of BlueCielo. And let me flip to that.
So what I'm going to start off with is a Meridian, which is our flagship product, Meridian, a web client for it that anyone can use in the organization. The web client can be easily rolled out to anyone in the organization for viewing, searching, even modification. Designers can use it as well. So very easily from within the system, we're going to make a quick search for our documents that we're interested in, and the search results will show us a number of documents. These can be anywhere in the facility, for example, and the results we can very easily reorganize or resort. For example, we see we've got some regulatory documentation here, some manuals, and a lot of engineering documents that are actually in progress right now. We can also dynamically filter these with any of these columns, and I'm going to go ahead and just filter these and just show only the master documentation. And there's a couple of them there. We're going to look at some more information for them. So what I'm going to do is drag this panel over here so we can see more details about them. As I click on each of the documents, the system is going to show me details about that, including a thumbnail about what's going on with the document. And I think this is the document we're going to be working with here. The data you're tracking about your documents is very configurable. You can determine how much of that you're going to be using. The template that we started the discussion with includes a lot of these. It is based on industry practices such as the process industry and allows you to already start with a lot of organization. Okay, so this is the design file that maintenance needs some updates to. And what we're going to do is simply redline, mark up the document so we can describe to our designers or engineers what we want. This is a drawing that describes the implementation of some pumps, and we want some more detail about how to fasten them to the concrete base, because there's going to be some vibration and we need to be able to control that well. So we'll add a note of where we want the comments added, and we're going to ask for specific details here. Say add details for concrete fasteners. Okay, and also if you have certain symbols or icons that represent equipment that you're going to be asking about, you can also build these symbols and libraries into sort of a stamp, and you can very easily add these to your red lines to sort of give a suggestion of how you want this to look like. I want to detail something like that, for example. A lot of our customers use electrical symbols, use equipment symbols to easily mark up a document and redline and very clearly describe what they want to do. Okay? So we're done with that. We asked the question, or we made the request for maintenance that we want this to be changed, and we're going to go ahead and exit this. No, let's leave it and just minimize it. Now, as design and engineering folks are going about their business, they may not live and breathe in the system. They may be checking email typically. So let's go ahead and check our email, and we'll notice that just now at 11:20 we have received an email that tells us that the following documents was redlined. And this document was redlined, and it gives us a couple of shortcuts actually. If we're working remotely from the office, we can use the web access client. It's a very thin client that allows us to open the documents, change them, even participate in the workflow as well. We can also have a link to the Power User client, which is a thick client of Meridian, and we'll launch that right now. Now what's interesting is that the link will put us right on top of the document that was redlined, and the viewer, of course, is going to show us the comments and red lines that have been added by maintenance, maybe last night, for example. Okay. Well, we also notice that this document is currently at revision C, which is fine, and we can also see historical revisions of this document all the way up to the beginning of the initial instance. And they all have the same name, and they're all stored in the same folder, for example. So there's no worry about breaking references or breaking connections to other documents for external references. Okay? Now what we also notice is that this document is currently undergoing change in some other projects we see. Let me click on this project browser, and it'll show me the current master approved document and also another project. I'm going to go ahead and hit the control key and highlight both of them. It shows me another a project copy that's going on right now, and what I can do is actually compare these to see what that project is doing to this document. And in the compare window, we'll see my currently released document revision C and the current changes that are undergoing as part of that other project, revision D1. And we can see in a compare window what's going on in this document. It looks like they're adding some more detail about some pumps here, and also they're adding or they're changing some of the metadata in the title block, which is fine. Now what's interesting is that we're going to be making changes and adding a detail in this area of the design, so we're not going to be stepping on each other's work. So we can go ahead and check this document actually out to another project. And the management of a single document into multiple projects is something that Meridian does easily. It handles the connection between these documents. It handles the references between these documents. We can compare them easily. We don't lose any work. So let's go ahead and do that. We're going to simply right-click on the document and put it into a project. And in this case, we're going to put it into a simple work-in-progress project, like a work order project. Now, what we see here is that this CAD file actually has several CAD references, like a pump is referenced here. And if we're going to make changes to these other sub-files, for example, we can simply include them and make a copy of them in the project very easily. And we can release them back. In this case, I don't anticipate making any changes to that. Other references that we see are references in regards to its functional location, site, or even equipment that this refers to. We'll talk about this a little bit later on, but these we'll just leave there where they are. So the document is now checked out to a project. What we need to do now is assign it to someone to do the work. Typically, a lot of our customers will grab the document from the released area and give it to themselves for work, and then we'll pass it on for approval. And this may look like something like this. Let's see, update per maintenance request. And we can also assign it to other users, for example, a designer, engineer, for example. In this case, I'll assign it to myself. I'm logged in as administrator to keep it easy. A couple of things you'll notice is that all of our workflow information has now been updated, and also we've begun updating the revision as well automatically. These rules are built in, and you can configure them yourselves as your company needs it, for example. Okay. The workflow that this document is going to go through now looks something like this. It started from its original state. It is now under change, and the current user can modify the document. Other engineers, for example, can see the changes, but they can't change them. And then from here, we typically would want to start the review where we're not going to be changing the file. We're going to be reviewing it and either approving it or rejecting it, maybe with red lights, for example. Also note that there's a direct route from me changing the document directly to an issuing or releasing the file. In some cases, like a fast track change or a case where an administrator needs to go ahead and move this to the issue state, we can do that. But in this case, notice that the rules don't allow me to do that. So I need to go through the review process. And you can place rules in place. You can put rules in place so you can control how the workflow is controlled. And of course, you can configure the workflow to look and act the way you need to. Let's go ahead and make these changes. And to do that, I'm going to simply double-click on the CAD file and open in AutoCAD. And this integration that I'm going to be showing you here with AutoCAD works very well with other systems like MicroStation, and even with, as far as the interaction with menus and data exchange, works with other authoring tools like Word or Excel, for example. Okay. Notice that as soon as we get into the design tool, we also have a BlueCielo menu that allows us to access information from Meridian, and even a BlueCielo ribbon that allows us to retrieve information from the Meridian system and even push information back, such as, let me go ahead and zoom into, oops, sorry about that, zoom into the title block. And we see that there's a lot of information that's entered here, and this information is coming from and even controlled by the metadata that we enter within Meridian. So, for example, the details here will also feed information into the title block and back and forth if that's appropriate. So let's zoom out of here. And what we're going to do now is insert some detail that's going to help the user or the maintenance folks understand how to implement this. We're going to insert that detail here. This level of integration, where we can either insert a block or insert a CAD reference, works in various applications. For example, I can look at my documents, I can look at my desktop, but Meridian also offers a way that we can jump into and look at our documents inside the vault very easily at the click of a button. I am now switched to a view that sees the documents that are in my vault. For example, the work in progress project documents here. I also have a library of templates that I'm going to be choosing from. So I'm looking inside the vault here. So the details that I'm going to be working with, this is the concrete detail I'm going to enter. And very easily, I'm able to jump into the vault, pick up the documents that I need, and then insert it right away. Let me see what it looks like within our layout. It looks pretty good. So we'll go ahead and leave this document, and we'll be on our way. Immediately, the design changes show up, and of course, the designing is done, and we need to pass this on to the next step. And of course, the next step is to review the document. And I can grab one or several documents and pass them on to the next step, which is to review these documents. And we can say design done, and of course, assign anyone else that we need to. And of course, the user list here is controlled with your rules. And this is going to be for an as-built purpose. Now, as we go through this process and approve the document and look at the document, we can notify the users of this action. Just like we saw earlier that we received an email when the document was redlined, a user can receive an email when the document is on their to-do list. For example, right now this document is in review and the person responsible is administrator, or James or other people, for example. An easy way to see all of the documents that I'm responsible for is to use a navigation view. A navigation view essentially will reorganize some of these folders and even filter documents out to show me only the documents that I'm interested in. For example, the documents that I'm responsible for example, changing, and there's a bunch of them I'm going to be changing, and also reviewing. In this case, I'm reviewing these few documents. And if I've got the privileges, I can also, as a manager perhaps, look at everybody's to-do list. So this will show me documents that other people are working on. For example, Dan is currently, I think, changing this same document in the other project. So we can easily see other users' to-do list and see what's going on with other projects as well. So let me go ahead and switch back to the Explorer so we can see where this document resides, and we can process this along its way. Before we approve it, let's go ahead and take a peek and compare it to the original document that landed in the project. Remember, it was revision C. In comparing these two, we see our detail added, and that's all we see here in this project. Okay, that looks pretty good. And we can also compare the properties, the metadata properties within the system as well. This is kind of nice. Satisfied with that, we'll go ahead and finally approve the document. And this is going to be for approval. Excuse me. So this document is approved as part of the project, and depending on your project release rules, for example, there may be a bunch of documents that need to be updated as part of this project, and all of them will be released at once. So those two are separate steps. A couple of things that happen automatically is that all the workflow items are cleared and we're done with all the responsibilities here. I don't know if you noticed, but there's a little red lock here that tells me the document rendition is actually being updated. Meridian is also able to dynamically create and update rendition PDFs or TIFFs of your documents so they can be shared with anyone in the organization. Let me now clear the red lines, because I think we're all done with those. And at the click of a button, I can also switch between my native CAD or Word or Excel file and the PDF rendition that was just updated to include my detail that was just added there. Okay? So I think we're done with that. And let me go ahead and turn off the viewer. And if we need to, or if we're done with this document as part of the project, we can then release it back as a master. Now, a couple of things are going to happen automatically, and I want to walk us through that. First of all, the document in my project is going to be put into an archive location. And this is because it's kicking in some of our document retention policies. For example, we can implement a policy that says project documents are to be retained for the end of the project plus a year, for example. And that can be done here. And of course, our latest and greatest version D document is updated as part of our release set of documents. And I'm going to go quickly refresh, make sure our thumbnail is done. And we can see our revision now is added to the stack of current revisions. Okay. And of course, this will update the data and the document that our user is seeing, our maintenance user is seeing in their world or their experience. So I simply will switch back to the interface that we saw earlier, And I will very easily just switch to another document, and now to our current document, which we just updated again in Meridian in AutoCAD, and we automatically see the updated geometry, and we see the updated revision as well. Okay?
All right. So hopefully that gives everyone a good idea of what BlueCielo looks like in action from a drawing management standpoint and an engineering data management standpoint. We'll wrap up here with a couple more slides. We'll talk a little bit further about the idea of maintenance and engineering connected. Or we can see a good example here of a photo of an area of a complex, probably chemical plant, drawings related to it, markups being done by the maintenance staff, and then an engineering project kicked off for that area of the plant. At the same time, you may have engineering projects going on in other areas of the plant. And here, this graphic is designed to show the idea of overlapping engineering projects, where we've got this small project going on here, and then we've got a larger project going on encompassing this area of the plant, which somewhat overlaps the area for the smaller project. So some of these drawings are going to be assigned out to both projects. You need to manage and merge all of those concurrent changes. And then once you're done, do seamless handover to the maintenance staff for the as-built or the masters, and maintain regulatory compliance. Then a little bit more on the asset and lifecycle information management standpoint. Basically, maintenance needs equipment-related content. They're not thinking about drawings. They're not thinking about engineering projects. They're thinking about pieces of equipment. So in their case, this is a screen from Maximo, which is a very popular maintenance management system. You can see they've got a record up. So maintenance people typically pull up an equipment record or a work order, and then there'd be particular pieces of equipment. So we've got a piece of equipment here with all of its detailed information. And then with a system like Meridian, it adds in in this case, an engineering documents button, which for this piece of equipment, click this button, it goes to Meridian and retrieves all the current master or as-built documents for that piece of equipment. You're not going to get work in process project copies by accident, because those are separated. You're going to get all of the drawings and other documents related to that piece of equipment from one click in the maintenance system. Same drawing, same document may relate to multiple pieces of equipment. So I think hopefully you've seen the benefits that can exist for a system like this, and we're available to work with you to calculate what kind of return a system like this would have. Systems like this are nice, but you all work for businesses, and businesses want a return from their dollar. So it's critical to understand what kind of return the dollar investment will have. And one big thing about working with really Hagerman and BlueCielo is that we've been working in these industries. Each of us have been around 30 years. BlueCielo's been around 30 years as well. So we've got a lot of experience to make things happen for you quickly. Faster time to value with pre-configured templates based on industry practices. Leverage that for a faster path to adoption, which of course reduces your risk and then allows you to expand your usage much more quickly and easily. And typically when we work on a project, we break things down into phases: planning, administrator training, so your internal administrators can gain a full understanding of the system and its capabilities and what it can be configured to do. Kind of workshop or pilot the implementation, then develop a full detailed design including requirements analysis, functional spec, implementation plan, then basically build it and then deploy it. Once again, so back to this slide here that we showed earlier, just to summarize again what we think are the keys to achieving engineering and operational excellence in industries like this. And again, some of you here on the webinar today might really just need to hit the first two areas, which you can buy BlueCielo modules just to do that only. That kind of wraps up the prepared portion. I think I said 40 minutes, and I actually hit that exactly. On the prepared presentation. At this point, we can open it up for questions. I'll expand my question panel and see what questions we might have already. I can do that. And doesn't look like we have any questions yet at this point. So we'll hold things open for a couple of minutes to see what questions will come in regarding our webinar here today. Oh, hang on a second. Maybe I do have a question. Okay. Oh, okay. Someone mentioned, said that I mentioned Autodesk Vault, and are both needed. Yeah, Autodesk Vault is a separate system from BlueCielo Meridian, so customers would really select one system or the other. So BlueCielo Meridian does not require Autodesk Vault. Is a separate system, and then BlueCielo, if you're, in one of the key industries that we talked about here today, BlueCielo does go farther, you can see, into the engineering project and maintenance and operations integration. Another question: does Meridian interface with Archibus? And Archibus is a very popular, very powerful facility management solution, and Meridian can integrate with Archibus. That's the questions we have so far. Again, we'll hold it open another minute or two here to see if any other questions arise. If you think of them later, you can always go to hagerman.com and submit questions to there. If it relates to Meridian or data or document management, those will route to me. Or you can email me directly. Again, my name is Matt Lane. So it's very simple. Matt Lane at hagerman.com, and that's MATTLANE at hagerman.com with no dot in between the Matt and the Lane. And will there be a recorded version of this presentation available? I believe that's going to be, the recorded version will be available on our website as well. Like we're not having any more questions come in. Ashley, do you have anything else to say in wrap up here on your end?
Well, just like Matt said, if you have any other questions that you think of later, you can email him or respond to that email you received from GoToWebinar, and those will be routed to us as well. And once again, if you could take a few moments to answer the survey, we would appreciate it. It will automatically appear when you close down the session. And other than that, that's all I've got. So thanks for attending today's webcast, and have a great day.